Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fit Facts and Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Liv Murphy of Live Fit, and I'm so excited for today's episode. I have Mikayla Jai on here, and if you don't know who she has been my favorite podcaster for like 3 years now. I have done two of her programs. Starting in 2020, I did 7 days to the Monet, and
Yes.
I and I actually manifested my down payment for my first home with that program.
Oh my gosh.
And then I recently did her MMM method program, which was also so incredible and life-changing. I ended up quitting my job and like almost tripling my income working for myself again, which has been amazing. So I'm going to hand it over to you. You can introduce yourself and tell my audience a bit about what you do and about yourself.
Yay. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for having me on, Liv. I'm so excited. Hi, guys. I am Mikayla. I go by Mikayla Jai most of the time online. And I run a spiritual education company, which has all of the wonderful programs that she just talked about. I teach spirituality, I teach mindset, I teach how you can actually manifest your next level Lux life, I always call it. I am a podcast host. I've been running my business for over 5 years. I currently live in Austin, Texas with my super hot husband, two dogs, and a bunny. And it's just a vibe over here.
Yes, I love that. So, what do you love most about your job and your business?
I think I love most is that it's not what it was supposed to be. Like, I started my business out of this moral obligation after I had a huge spiritual awakening. And I just heard inside of me of like, you have to teach other people this information because I knew if I always said to myself, like, if I can change my shitty life, I can change someone else's. And that's one thing that I love the most about my business is that, like, I got to see this huge change in myself, and now I get to see that ripple into other people's lives on a daily basis. And that's so rewarding to me. And it's like anytime I get down about myself or I get discouraged in life, I'm going through something or in business, whatever, it's like then I open up my DMs on Instagram and I'm flooded with my amazing clients. I'm flooded with DMs about the podcast. People are like, this is changing my life. Like, I manifested a down payment for a house. I manifested a brand new car. Like, people will send me photos. People will send me photos of tattoos they get of like sayings I've said on the podcast, which is just crazy. So, like, one thing I just love about my business is that it has such a ripple effect and that it was something it wasn't even supposed to be, It's like it just got
Yeah.
birthed out of me basically.
Yeah, I love that. And I actually relate to that so much as well, because like it's amazing once you do something for yourself and change your own life. And then you get to see how many other people it affects when you start teaching and coaching and helping change other people's lives.
Yeah, and doing it in your own unique way. It's like there's so many people that talk about fitness. There's so many people that talk about mindset and manifesting, but it's like you get to watch your own transformation and be like, holy shit, like this, and that really worked for me. I get to share that with other people and see that you get to be that person that it actually resonates with, where they actually get the results, because there's so many different people you can hire and work with and learn from online, but you're only going to find those select few that really speak to your heart and they
Mhm.
can have that change because they resonate with you so much. And it's such a rewarding kind of cycle to be in. And it's really inspiring for me and I'm sure you feel the same way in your business, to constantly be growing and changing and evolving and learning more, because it's like the more I learn, the more I can teach to these people. And all the people in my community and the people that I touch through others' communities, it's like they resonate with me because they are similar to me. And so the things that work for me are going to continue to work for them, that they're going to continue to be interested in. And that's helped me continue my business for so long, because it's like, okay, just started out talking about manifesting. And then it's like, okay, now then we focus on mindset and we like added all these pieces. And then it got so deep into the spiritual world where I'm like talking about dimensions of consciousness and I'm talking about spirit guides and we're going all over the place, and the people just continue to love it and love it and love it because they also want to go deeper with you.
Mhm. Yeah, and like when you brought up the past lives and the spirit guides, that was something that I didn't always like super believe in. And I
Yeah.
remember sending a message to the group during this program on the week of the past lives being like, I am so shook right now because I didn't even want to listen to the past life module.
Yeah.
I was just going to skip over it, but I was like, I'm going for a walk. I might as well do it. And it actually had me so shook and like rethinking everything. And it just made so much sense. And I was like,
Yes.
wow, like it opened my eyes to something that I probably wouldn't have looked into much otherwise.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, seriously. And I felt that way when I started to learn about all of this. It's so funny when I think about my spiritual journey, like in high school. I remember talking to my boyfriend at the time, and he was telling me about this girl he went to high school with who started like collecting all these rocks and became like this crystal girl, and I was like, oh my God, I would never be a crystal girl. And now I'm like the crystal girl. It's just so funny because it's like when we first stumble upon some of these things, especially the more spiritual elements, you're kind of like, don't know how I feel about it. I don't really know until you kind of get into that realm and have that experience. And that goes for everything. I mean, different workouts too, of like people see, like, I know I felt this way the first time I took a bar class. I was like, I don't know how I feel about bar. And I went and I was like, okay, I feel the burn. I get the hype now,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so the spiritual world is totally the same. And it's really cool to get to curate experiences for people to kind of step out of their comfort zone time and time again, because you never know until you let yourself go there.
Yeah, for sure. So you kind of already answered that you didn't always want to do this, but what was your original career plan and how did you end up on this path?
Yeah, my whole life, I only ever wanted one career, my entire life, which is so crazy because usually when you ask kids what do they want to be and they grow up, it like changes like 8 different times. I
Mhm.
always wanted to work in fashion my entire life. I loved clothes. I loved the design process. I loved the fashion movies. I loved fashion PR and events and meeting people and getting to travel the world. So, my career plan originally was when I was in college, I was studying fashion and French. I was going to graduate and then I was going to move to Los Angeles and I was going to get my master's degree in social media for fashion specifically, social media and PR. And then I was going to move to Paris to get my PhD in fashion social media, which is actually a thing, which I didn't know for a long time, but you
Oh,
can,
I
I
didn't
know
know
you can
that
get a whole
either.
doctorate, right? So that was my big game plan. And I was like, I will be the intern that's working 14 hours a day, that's like holding ladders at fashion, like photo shoots, that's like grabbing coffee and like hating her life and not sleeping, but like is living the dream, right? That was my whole life plan. And when I was in college, I had even studied abroad in France. Like I was learning French because I was like, well, when I'm in Paris, like I want to be able to hold my own and like be able to network with people who only speak French or like only French speaking agencies, right? Was doing the whole thing while I studied abroad is when I actually had my spiritual awakening. So I had been at like this huge rock bottom in my life right before leaving. I was working at a fashion boutique. I was working like over 60 hours a week in the summer between my college semesters. I was living in this super nasty house I talk about all the time online, like so gross, like the bathtub water like wasn't draining. And then I was going to work at this super fancy boutique where women were like spending $800 on a Tuesday. And I'm like, I'm showering in someone's bath water. Like, what the fuck is going on with my life? And so I was at this rock bottom moment. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror and thinking, like, okay, something's got to give, like something's got to change. And it has to start with me. And I don't know where it came from. It was just a divine download from the universe that I was finally open to hearing for the first time in my life. I feel like all of my life events were kind of adding up for me to have this like awakening moment. But I heard that voice and I was like, okay, you know what? Study abroad is going to be my fresh start. I was in France for 6 weeks, I think it was. And I made this promise to myself. I was not going to gossip. I wasn't going to be negative. I wasn't going to complain. I was just going to be this version of myself I always wanted to be, happy and bubbly and funny and lights up every room that she walks into, that somebody like they want to be your friend because you're a fun, nice person. That's what I always wanted to be. And so I did that on my study abroad. I didn't know anybody there, so they didn't know me. And I just presented myself as my next level self that I now call it now. And it completely changed my life. And so when I came home as this totally different person, I lost a lot of friends because, especially after high school going to college, it's like you have friends over people you mutually don't like, and like you complain about college homework. And when you're no longer complaining or gossiping or participating in these kind of like negative activities, people don't know how to be friends with you anymore because that's been your friendship. So I lost some friends, and that was totally okay. And the funny thing is now most of those friends have actually like become more spiritual over time. So you never know what seeds that you're planting in other people, which is fun. And we always like support each other on Instagram, whatever. But when I was spending more time alone, I really deep dived into mindset, and I started going to yoga, and I was going into the gym twice a day, once to do yoga, once to work out or like go for a hot girl walk. I was journaling every day, getting into affirmations till I got to that point where, again, another mirror moment, I thought, like, I have to teach this, and that's that moment I kind of told you about earlier of like, I can change other people's lives. It almost felt selfish to not share. And so I launched my podcast, I launched my business, and that was in August of 2018. So here we are over 5 years later, which is
Yeah.
crazy to think about. But that's kind of the origin story of how I went from like fashion French guru to like college dropout, spiritual girly vibes.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so crazy to think about, even because like you could have still been in school, like doing a
Yeah.
PhD, and you have instead accomplished so much more and
Oh my gosh,
didn't have to
right.
spend like 8 years of your life in school to do it.
Oh my gosh, I know. And I think about that all the time. Like on that timeline, I think this year would have been the first year would have moved to Paris to start the
Mhm.
PhD. Had my master's still gone according to schedule, because I don't know how COVID would have affected that, but I would have been starting in Paris, which is so wild because I still would have been the like coffee slinging intern because I'd be in school and then like working night jobs or like designing things and selling them on the side. I probably would have had some side hustles or whatever, because I'm a Capricorn, businesswoman in my core.
Yeah.
But it's so wild. And one thing I really struggled with before I decided to drop out of college was I was getting paid to go to college. I had a bunch of scholarships. So every semester I was getting a huge paycheck from some of my scholarship funds. And I remember when I was deciding to drop out, I was like, I really don't want to disappoint these people who picked me over other applicants, who believed in my success and believed in me over other people. But then I realized, like, while I was in college, like my first year of business, I made six figures. I'm like, I've already started building success from a business that actually helps and impacts people. And that
Mhm.
I get to directly see that and be a part of that process and walk people through that every single day. And so when I kind of reframed that mindset, I was like, well, the people that invested in me invested good money in me because it's already paying off for the world to see. And so it's funny that you bring that up because it's like, oh my gosh, I would have kept running on all of this school after school after school, thinking like, what if I had dropped out, and just ran that business? And it's like, no, but I took the chance and I've created a lot more success than I probably would have being in that 8 year chunk of school.
Mhm. Yeah. And I totally relate to that too, because like I went back to working full time for a gym. It was like similar to what I am doing now. And it was still like, somewhat fulfilling to me because I was helping people achieve their fitness goals and whatnot.
Right.
But I just didn't have that like flexibility and time freedom. And like the whole time I was thinking, what if I just like stuck it out? What if I didn't take this job? What if I just kept pushing? So I'm very glad that things happened the way they did. And now I am back on my own too, because it is so much nicer to be able to, make your own schedule and charge your own rates and just like arrange things how you want to arrange things and help people the way
Right.
you want to help people.
Absolutely. And in the way you can help people best, right? And not to slander anybody who works for anybody, that's fabulous, especially if you love what you do and you love where you work. But it's like you're always going to be working under some sort of guidelines and some sort of programming that they want you to be doing, especially for fitness. It's like, okay, they probably have certain things that you do or don't do with your clients. And so now you have that full freedom to do exactly what you want to do that is going to help people the best. And that you can show up to be your best self too, because you have that freedom to work the hours you want to work and then be at home, be with your kid, like live your life. And so then you get to show up as a better coach because of that.
Yeah. For sure. Okay, so next question. What has been your biggest failure so far, and what has it taught you?
Man, I had to think hard about this. I was like, what would I say for this as the biggest failure? And I am a big believer. Well, okay, so I'm a big believer in your success is inevitable. One of my OG MJ quotes that I say all the time. And I actually really believe that failure is laughable. A lot of times when I say the word failure, like I physically start to smile, but like I'll start laughing because I've really programmed my brain into like not believing in that idea because I'm like, everything's adding up to my success. So when I was thinking about this, I'm like, okay, well, what have I done that has failed me forward? That I would be like, oh, if I look back, I would do it differently. And I think one of the biggest things that I've learned in my journey in business that I've failed forward in would be hosting events. Hosting events is really complicated because you're coordinating so many people. And for me, for anybody who doesn't know, I host international retreats typically twice a year. And so you're coordinating schedules and flights and international details and language barriers and different things. And my very first retreat I ever held was in Greece, and it was fabulous. And I was just a little baby. Like, this was the very first thing I had launched before I even officially launched my business. And I booked my flights so last minute that I arrived like 3 hours after the girls did. Like, the girls that were coming to the retreat, like, got there before me. And so I was like, okay, I should probably not let that happen last time. But they were totally fine and cool with it. But I was like, okay, that wasn't the best decision I made. And when we were on that trip, we actually did this excursion. This one's more of like a funny story than a failure and maybe a language barrier, but we like did this excursion was a island hopping boat tour, which was a blast. They like fed us. We went to 3 different islands. You could swim, shop, walk around, and the boat literally left the three of us on an island on accident. Like, I don't know if I wasn't watching the time or if it was a language thing, but like it literally left us and we're standing on the dock, like three little American girls waving our arms around. We're like, please come back, please come back. Like, we have no idea what island we're even on. And thank God the boat did actually turn around. And they were like, when you get off of the next island, like make sure you're back on time. They were so upset with us, of course. But that was like a failure. So I feel like my lessons where I'm like, ooh, I like should do better next time and pay more attention have been big lessons in like leadership and kind of being on top of things and being more organized. And I think that also comes from like I started my business when I was super young. And so when you grow, like you get older, you just get more organized and tedious. So the things that I have learned are my biggest kind of failures just with different events, even like I've had retreats on islands and then it ends up pouring rain. And I'm like, well, that canceled our entire beach club day. Like, what are we supposed to do now?
Mhm.
Has made me learn you always need to kind of have that plan B. What's your plan B? How can you be a leader in these moments? If you see something's obviously going wrong, step in and say something. And I think that's always scary for us because a lot of times we don't want to like deal with conflict. We don't want to deal with problems. We don't want to look like we don't have our shit together. But
Yeah.
those are those leadership moments when you can step in and be like, okay, shit's kind of hitting the fan here. I'm going to do something about it. So that's what I would say for my fail forward moments.
Okay. I love that. And you probably assumed I was going to ask this question. And I love that you do always include like your health and fitness routine in your posts and on your social
Yeah,
media. So I would love to know how your health and fitness impacts your business.
it impacts everything. And I know you're totally going to agree with me. So, oh my gosh, health and fitness impacts business in so many different ways. So, for one, I'm a big believer in a hot girl walk. And if you're listening to this and you're like, what is a hot girl walk? It's literally just going for a walk and being a hot girl. Okay. And that is a decision you get to make, right? I am a really big believer in hot girl walks. Now, there's 3 different types that I like to take. There is like a morning power hot girl walk where you're like hyping yourself up. And this does not mean I take 3 walks a day. Okay. I'm just talking about my different types here of how I incorporate it. So you'd be like your morning hype up, like maybe you're listening to a podcast that's like really motivating, inspiring, or you're like listening to your hot girl playlist. You're kind of getting like hyped for the day. That's like one of my walks. Another type of hot girl walk I do is I have it dead silent. Like I'll wear headphones, but I'm just dead silent on my walk. And that's like my thinking time. And that really helps my business because I know when I'm moving, there's more energy moving through me and there's more ideas moving through me. And especially when I have that silence, I can really think, right? It's like I'm moving my body. I'm aware of my surroundings, but I'm not paying attention to my phone because I might be crossing the street. I'm seeing what cars are around me. Texas, there's a lot of stray animals. I'm like seeing if there's any dogs around. And so I just get my time to think. And on a lot of these, I'll voice note myself business ideas. And so I get a lot of my ideas for programs and things I want to update. Even the other day, I was walking on the treadmill and I was thinking about, like, okay, what do I want to update in my business? And I thought of like 5 new mini lessons I want to add to MM Method, right? So it's like, those are my idea generating walks. And then I have like cool off walks. So during my work day, if I start to feel really overwhelmed or I'm really in my head, or you're like, why isn't it happening? Or I feel like I have to work so hard for this. When you kind of start running into those limiting beliefs, I'll go on a walk where I listen to like Kundalini music or just frequency music to calm down. And that helps me in my business. Well, the first one helps in the business because you get excited for the day. The second one helps your business ideas. And the third one helps you just get recentered for your day. It's like you can't move into all the activities you need to do in your business in a frantic, anxiety based energy. That's not the vibe we want to put into our work, right? So my walks really help my business. When you think about workouts, like I'm a big gym girly. I love lifting weights. It's just so empowering. Like you feel so good about yourself when you're hitting like a new PR. And when for me, I love jumping around the gym. Like I'm always jumping. And before I'm doing pull-ups, I'm like jumping in place to get myself excited. Like it just hypes you up and you feel really good about yourself. And when you feel good about yourself and you feel good about how you look, you're going to show up in your business more. Like when you are in a place where you don't like yourself and you don't like how you look, you want to hide. We want to avoid that, right? Because we don't want to be confronted. We don't want other people to see that. So when you're really in your health and fitness grind, you feel really good and it makes you show up feeling really, really good. So health and fitness ties into everything. And then on the wellness side of things, I have so many like wellness rituals that go into my business, like taking vitamins every day to make sure I have the right energy. I think of food in like a wellness category, making sure you're getting in protein again, so you have that energy. Every single morning, I drink water with fresh lemon juice and then a pinch of Celtic salt to make sure I'm hydrated for the day. I'm really big on sleep. I drink magnesium every single night, right? It's like there's so many different things that I do, but it's really so you can have the optimal body and the optimal energy to perform at the levels you want. And I think when some people start to hit plateaus in business, it's because you're not taking care of yourself and your body energetically maxes out. And so when we're constantly focusing on moving energy, pumping more energy into our body with the protein and the water and the walks, and you're getting in good workouts where you feel good about yourself, your business is going to start to thrive a lot faster.
And I see that with so many clients too, like not even just the ones that do own their own business, but like they start like taking the supplements and taking care of their health and going on the walks and lifting the weights, and all of a sudden just like everything in their life changes for the better. Like I've had one client who got like offered a new job out of nowhere with a pay raise and better
Oh my
benefits.
gosh.
Yeah, like after she'd been doing this for just a couple months. And
Wow.
like some people like left relationships and found better ones. Like so
Amen,
many
honey.
like
Yes.
positive things just like happen when you start taking care of yourself. And as a business owner, I do think it is like one of the key things, but really for everybody, like if you want better sleep, if you want more energy with your kids, more energy for your school, like literally anything. And so many people are like, I can't because I'm tired all the time. And I'm like, no, you need to because you're tired all the time.
Exactly. You're tired all the time because you're not doing these things. It's like if you were drinking the right amounts of water, if you were getting the right amount of sleep, if you were moving your body, you would feel so much better. And one thing that I found really interesting on the spiritual realm that kind of ties into fitness is human with human design. So human design is kind of like astrology, kind of not. And there's only 5 types. And I'm a manifesting generator. So manifesting generators and generators have a ton of energy. And if anybody's like, what the hell are you talking about? Just look up human design chart and you can find one for free online. But MGs and generators have so much energy. And when at the end of the day, if you don't get all that energy out, you feel exhausted, but in that unfulfilled way.
Mhm.
And those are the two most common types of people in the world. And so I think that's something that a lot of people are running into when they come to a fitness coach or somebody for their health and wellness or a naturopath. They're like, I'm so exhausted all the time. It's because you're not burning all of your energy. And it's because you're not giving yourself enough energy, right?
Yeah.
I feel amazing after my workouts. I feel 10 times more energized after I crush a good lift in the gym. And I think people think it's going to be the opposite. They're going to be dragging ass all day. They're going to be so exhausted. And maybe sometimes, like that'll happen sometimes, but not regularly. And you
Yeah.
just get so much more out of it. I think it's so important. And then another thing I wanted to mention, like when you're really tapped into your health and fitness, you're creating that space for you in your calendar, in your day to day, whether that's you sitting down to make a lemon water in the morning, you taking the time to plan out your meals for the week to make sure they're protein focused, you taking the time to go on a walk, even if it's 15 minutes. When you spend that time with yourself, you really realize your self worth. And I think that's when we start to get all of these new opportunities. Yeah, you're going to dump your shitty boyfriend because now you care about yourself, right? And yeah, you're going to get a great opportunity because you know you're worth stepping into that role. And so there's so many ways that health and fitness tie into our life. I could talk about it for like a whole other hour, but I truly think it's a foundational part of every single thing that we do. And I'm a big believer in the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And so if you start caring about yourself in your health and fitness, you're going to start caring more about yourself in a workspace, in your relationships, in your family, with your friends, how you present yourself to the world. And you're just going to watch your life level up very, very quickly that way.
Hmm. Yeah. And I find like, even especially for me, like when I started my health and fitness journey, like I was in school and I definitely wasn't into learning about mindset or any kind of like personal development. But once you like start one of those habits that's like you're constantly trying to better yourself, you kind of just like
Mhm.
always feel like you should be like learning or bettering yourself in some way. And I don't think that all of the opportunities would have come to me if I didn't just start by working on myself in that one way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the most sustainable way to change your life, too. It's like start with one thing at a time, you know? Maybe that one thing you can carve out is a 15-minute walk and you're putting on literally this podcast and that's that time you're dedicating. And then you listen to this and you're like, you know what? I do need to get better sleep. And so then you add in 8 hours of sleep instead of six, right? And then after that, you're like, okay, I feel really well rested. I want to take control of my mornings. Now you're adding a journaling practice, right? It's like one thing at a time is how you continue to build and grow. But I totally agree with you of like once you're in that flow, you just constantly want to get better and better and better. And even one of the girls in our Emma Method group was talking about this the other day. She was like, okay, I'm doing really good about waking up, no phone, phones across the room. I'm spending time journaling. Okay, I feel really nailed down on that in my skincare. What should I add next? Okay, great. That's going to be a meditation. What should I do after that? Right. That's how we build these truly sustainable habits that will end up changing your life.
Yeah, for sure. And in my coaching too, I'm always like a huge believer on adding things slowly. Like I
Mm,
never start with like workouts every day,
right.
movement every day. I'm like, you're going to hit 3 lifts this week and you're going to walk on 2 of your rest days, and that's it. And you're going to try to get as close as you can to this meal plan, or even just make some small changes towards getting there. But if not, it's okay because you're just plugging food in, you're learning, and you're going to get better at it each week. And
Yep.
after a month's time, we're going to add more workouts, we're going to make it harder. And that's just the easiest way to do anything, is like one small change at a time.
I totally agree. And that ties back into what I was saying about my failure and kind of what I learned from it. Like, really, what your clients are learning is leading themselves with their health and journey fitness. And that gets so scary. And when we're like, oh no, like I miss counting macros one day, I failed, like, oh, I'm just going to take a few days off. Like that's when everybody like cold turkey cuts everything out and they do it for 3 days and they fall off, right? It's like, no, we have to give ourselves some grace. Like you're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn along the way. You're learning to lead yourself into a literally like a new lifestyle because this is not a yo-yo diet. This isn't like a just a 6-week workout plan and then you're good to go, right? It's a lifestyle change. And so we have to allow that space for us to be human and for us to grow. So I love that you do that with your clients too. I think that's so beneficial and it's so much easier on your brain to know that like okay, I only need to do 3 this week. Like if I don't do 6, okay, I'm not a failure. Like good. I'm happy about that.
Yeah. And so many people do struggle with that all or nothing mindset. Like most of the clients I start working with have had like a past of like yo-yo dieting. And
Mhm.
yeah, it is a little bit hard to break, but it also doesn't help with all the diet ads you see everywhere,
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
misinformation about nutrition online. But I could also rant about that forever.
Bonus episodes incoming.
Yeah. All right. So, what are some non negotiables for you each day to keep growing your business?
Ooh, okay. So for me, I am a big believer that when we grow ourselves, your business gets to grow with you. And I kind of touched on this a little bit, but we get into these loops where we're really exhausted and we're really burnt out. And you can't manifest more when you are at that level because your body has an energetic capacity. And I like to think of it as like an iPhone battery. You start your day, if you charge your phone at night, kind of like if you get 8 hours of sleep, right? It's like if your phone's getting that full rest, you're gonna wake up with 100, right? And it's gonna go down, 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 and down. Well, if you have a lot of things taking big chunks of your battery every day, how are you supposed to manifest more results in your business and in your life? It's like, okay, if you want to have this really massive podcast and have that be a full time thing, you need to make sure you have the time and space to sit down and record quality episodes, make sure that you're pitching brands if you want brand deals, that you have time to sit down with your guests, right? You have to map all of that out. But let's say like your 9 to 5 is taking up all this energy. How do we reroute that? Okay. So for me, it's about growing your personal capacity and that comes in all of my little rituals. So, what I would say my non negotiables for growing business is growing myself and what I can handle and how I maneuver things. And so, I like starting my day with the thing that's giving me kind of the most anxiety. Like, if I look at my calendar and I'm like, okay, I have to do this and this is kind of stressing me out. Like one day might be like, okay, I have to film all these TikTok videos to post today. And I look at that and I'm like, shit, I have nothing to post. I have nothing scheduled. I'll tackle that first. Or if after a weekend, because usually I'm not in my DMs on the weekend, if it's a Monday, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have so many messages. I'll do that first. That way, when my day starts, I already took off the heavy load. And that really helps me push forward because, again, that's expanding that capacity. That one thing that would have taken 40%, 60% of my battery throughout the day stressing about it, I already dealt with it. So that took 1% in the morning. And a lot of the things giving us anxiety aren't actually anxiety like giving things or tasks. It's like, okay, God, you have to film TikTok videos. Like, just find an audio and throw it together, right? It's like we just create all this anxiety in our bodies. So, I really love doing that. Like, whatever is kind of stressing me out the most for the day, tackle that first thing. So that's a big growth thing for me because you have all of this energy after. But then taking care of myself and my body, making sure I'm doing my journaling every single day. Because when it comes to business and business growth, your mindset is everything. If you think like, oh, I'm so close to my goal, but I'm not going to hit it, you're not going to hit it. If you're thinking like, oh my gosh, I don't know where all these clients are supposed to come from, they're not going to come. So, really making sure that your mindset's in the right place. If I'm looking at my podcast stats and I'm like, oh, they're not as good as last month, right? I'll get back in my journal. I'm like, why am I making something mean X, Y, and Z thing? We're 1 week into the month, or we're halfway through the month. There's still so much time left. Oh, okay. Is there something else I can do to promo this that I didn't do before? Oh, yeah, duh. That's why, And so when we're checking in with our mindset regularly, we can remind ourselves of what beliefs we are intentionally choosing to have that support our growth. So that would be a huge non-negotiable of mine, is making sure I'm watching my beliefs regularly. And for me, it's the most helpful when I'm journaling, because I can really see, like, when I'm writing down these thoughts and beliefs, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize I was actually thinking that. I don't choose that belief. That's not supporting my success and rerouting my energy. And so anxiety things first thing, making sure I'm checking my mindset. And then another thing that I love doing for business growth is visualization. And I almost do this not in like an eyes closed way. Usually I do this while I'm driving, and I kind of do like a verbal visualization. Like I'll be like talking myself through the type of growth that I want to have. So I'm using podcasting for a lot of these examples, but just because we're recording, so it's on my mind. But like, let's say the goal for business growth is signing my podcast to a podcast network, right? I'll be driving to like literally like get Starbucks or get my coffee, and I'll be talking out loud and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I just signed to Dear Media. I'm so excited. I just signed to iHeartRadio. I'm so
Mhm.
excited. I'm going to be doing a podcast tour, and I'm going to be in 4 cities, and it's going to be sold out. It's going to be so much fun. I'm going to come out on stage, and we're going to be playing fucking TikTok by Kesha, and we're going to have a dance part. Like I'll like talk these things out to myself to really see myself in it and feel it, because that also helps with that energetic capacity and your beliefs. Is like, when you can
Mhm.
feel it, you can believe in it. When you can feel it, that actually makes your energetic battery go back up when you start to get re-energized. Same thing as when you're taking those walks, going on those workouts, you feel good about yourself, so that energy goes back up. So those are three big things for me every single day that are non-negotiables. Tackling what stresses me out the most first thing, so I make sure my energetic capacity is set for the day so I can take on more and deal with more. The second thing is always watching my beliefs. For me, it really has to do with my journaling that I do very regularly, and then visualization to really feel into that energy of that next level. And all of those things really make you start to take different action steps, and that's what ends up leading to the business growth. When you believe that you're going to sign these clients, when you believe you're going to be a part of the podcast network, when you believe you're going to hit X, Y, and Z, you're going to take different actions, and that's what's going to bring in that growth.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you have mentioned that you like say these things out loud too, because that really helps with your beliefs in like every area. And I was
Totally.
actually just talking to a client this morning, and this just made me think of that,
Yeah.
who said that they bought an audiobook months ago on like fitness mindset, and like they hadn't listened to it at all yet. And they were driving yesterday, and the book was prompting them to like say out loud these like mantras about weight loss and
Mm.
like belief in themselves and stuff like that. And she literally texted me yesterday and was like, I want to add an extra session every week this month. I'm getting back on it right now. And I was like, okay. So I had one session with her this morning, and she was like, no, I just was listening to this book and I was saying all these things, and I was like, I need to get back at this hard. And I was like, oh my gosh, you need to do that like every day. Like keep
Yeah.
saying those things and you will stay on track. So yeah,
Absolutely. It's so powerful. I heard this somewhere. I don't remember what the source was, but there was a study done of women that look at themselves in the mirror and they think like, I'm skinny, I'm thin, I'm fit, whatever your affirmation might be. Like women that say that to themselves in the mirror actually get the results faster. And
Mhm.
I wish I knew where the study was done, because I find that so interesting and it's so true. And even to like the visualization point of like seeing yourself in these things, seeing yourself being that person, having those beliefs, that's something that, professional athletes do. I just saw a TikTok the other day of this girl who was like, she was a professional gymnast, and she said before they were able to go out and perform, they would do one test round and 10 visualizations of their routine. Only like one practice, 10 visualizations. The NBA talks about it all the time. All of the professional basketball players all do visualizations before they go and play a game. Like I've seen videos of people go in and there's like all of these like 6'5" men sitting crisscross applesauce, like doing a meditation, visualizing before the game. But when you see yourself, when you hear these things about yourself, it really changes the action you take. And I love the visualization, but I also love speaking it out loud because I think it makes it so much more powerful hearing it in your own voice too.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. And I love somewhere in the MMM method, it says to like, or we were just talking about it one day, I don't even remember, but recording yourself saying these things so that you can listen to
Yes.
them, that has been huge for me because, even if you don't have time to sit down and say them out loud, you're driving and you can just play them.
Absolutely. You just have your own little audio rolling. And for anybody listening, really the practice is just figuring out what do you want to believe about yourself, recording a little voice note audio and listening to it every single day. When I was first getting into my spiritual journey, I wrote out a whole page of affirmations and I wish I still had this page. Like it was so cute. I like in a highlighter, like in cursive, put affirmations, and then the rest of it in pen was like a bunch of affirmations, like a physical piece of paper. I wrote it down, and every morning, first thing when I woke up, and last thing before I went to bed, every single night, I would read them out loud. And then my roommate at the time, her boyfriend had moved in, and I started to feel super embarrassed, like reading these affirmations, and they're like in the next room. And that's why I came up with that practice to, okay, I'll just record it one day when they're not home, and I'll have all my affirmations and I'll listen to them. And it
Yeah.
is so effective because when you hear yourself say something, your brain takes it as 10 times more true than your own writing. And so you start manifesting these things a lot faster.
Yeah. I love that. All right, last question for you. What are some of the most rewarding or meaningful experiences you've had because of your business?
Oh my goodness. I would say my retreats for sure are such magical, rewarding experiences because I get to travel with my girls. Everybody's getting so excited. We always have a group chat before, and like everybody's like, oh my gosh, what are you wearing? What outfits are you packing? Like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see what we're doing. Or even I was just in Canada last month doing a one on one VIP weekend and getting to send over the itinerary to my client and her being like, holy shit, you thought of everything. Like, this is next level amazing. And then get to go and lead that amazing, like 10 out of 10 type of experience is so rewarding for me because I just get to see, and especially with my retreats, like I host them at very bougie spots. It's totally my thing. Like we're either staying at like 4 or 5 star hotel or a really, really nice villa. And so the girls walk in and they're just like, what the hell? And with my retreats and events, like typically I will pay for all of the meals, all of your drinks. So like nobody worries about anything. And I get to see in real time my clients finally relax. A
Yeah.
lot of us have never had this type of environment where you literally don't have to think about anything, where you're taken care of. You're not thinking of, oh, should I order that cocktail? Like it's $15. It's like, no, I got it. Like get whatever you want for the weekend. And
Mhm.
getting to watch how that changes. Literally, you can see like their brain chemistry altering in these moments is super rewarding. They're also just really fun experiences. I've had retreats in Greece. I've done Mexico 3 different times, the Bahamas, Canada, Los Angeles, the DR. We're going to Bali next year, which I'm so excited about. And so those are just some of my most rewarding things because I also get to like hug and hold my clients in person. Like I wish I could hug all of you because I'm like spend so much time in my little office. I'm like, hi. So I would say those are some of my most rewarding experiences. That and every single time I get like a celebration message, like those never get old to me because
Mhm.
every single time, whether it's, oh my God, I found $20 on the ground, or like, holy shit, I'm manifesting my Range Rover, I'm like peeing my pants excited, because it's just like, holy shit, you just get to watch it work and work and work and work. And that's super rewarding to me. So, super magical, rewarding, getting to hug my clients and have bougie experiences, and super rewarding and exciting when I get to see it really impacting other girls' lives.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel the same way about the messages of like people changing their lives. It's still like the best feeling ever. I totally wish I could come on your retreat.
I know, one day. Oh my gosh. After your wedding and after all of the things.
Yes. Or maybe I'll have to make you come to Nova Scotia.
I totally will. I've always wanted to go. Oh my God. When you said the time zones were 2 hours ahead, I totally thought that you were in Ontario for some reason. And I was like, oh my God, she's got to be in Nova Scotia. I was like, I want to go.
Yes, definitely. That would be so much fun.
That would be a blast. I love Canada. My client, when we
Mm.
had to change our little VIP weekend, she was actually going to come to Texas because she like loves country things and was like, I want a Texas experience. And I was like, okay, like I'm the least country girl ever. I was like, I guess, you know. But then she got pregnant and she was like, oh my gosh, I can't travel. And I was like, don't worry, we're going to Toronto. I'm like booking a ticket right away. And she was like, thanks so much for coming. And I was like, thank you for letting me come to you. Like, I love Canada. Oh my God, I have had a blast. So maybe
Awesome.
Nova Scotia next.
All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this today and answering all my questions.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. This was so much fun.
It was. All right. Well, did you want to share anything about how my audience can find you
Yeah,
before?
totally. So if you guys want to hang out with me, you can find me on literally any of the social media platforms under the Mikayla J. And then same thing on YouTube, it's just Mikayla J. And come hang out with me on my podcast. It's pretty much the shit, I will say. It's called the Mindset Magic and Manifestation Podcast, and you can find me and hang out with me there. And if you guys ever want to take one of my programs for my spiritual education company and you don't know where to start, feel free to shoot me a DM. I don't bite. I'll let you know what I think is the best fit for you. But I hope you guys tune into the podcast and hang out with me over on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thank you and have a good rest of your day.
You're welcome. You too.
See ya.
Bye.